if it does not fit
Mm.
our purpose or fit our budget, and move on to the next one. And that's how convenient it is for us. So the Ghanaian consumer is way more selective, and they would definitely move from one brand to the other. The loyalty that you're asking for is not the same because you would have to build it more than you thought you would have done maybe in the 90s. Now the loyalty would come from maybe following a certain cause, just like the example you gave with Unilever.
Mm.
Those are the things that might build a brand loyalty. Whereas maybe before you might not need all of that for brand loyalty. You might just need something simple like a very nice ad that's actually place when you can get brand loyalty from it. But now people have so many options, and so they are very selective. And I think that's the change that you will see in their mindsets, that they will not be for lack of a better word, bamboozled into buying anything.
Right. People are being selective. Now, with that, let's look at it from the business perspective. Let's also speak to business leaders right now. Now, every business wants to adapt. They're looking for strategies that can help them, win a market share. Now, how has businesses rethinking, and this is, looking at the strategy aside from SWOT or looking at the 4 piece and all that, how are businesses rethinking their pricing strategies to meet the needs of value conscious consumers?
Um, so for pricing strategies, you would have to they have become a bit more tactical and think about the consumer first,
Mm.
and would consider what they think is fair for the consumer and not just what is good for their budget or for their finances. That's the way you go about it. You start creating different packages. So the era of packages are here, even on soft products and hard products. Both of them have different packages. When
Mm.
you are subscribed to a service online, you know that they're going to be a basic, intermediate. There's going to be all of that, and that's the kind of tiered pricing that has happened. Even with hard products, for example, I will give an example of say Ideal Milk, which used to be the number one. I mean, it used to be the number one, probably is still the number one milk, where it's served in say uh, a tin a tin can
Mm.
all the time. But then they have to, after some years, start thinking about flexible pricing, bringing it down to a smaller package that maybe people can consume quickly. They realize that people also do not like to keep their fridge milks in their fridge for too long. So how can we do a smaller package to get the people to be
Mm.
on the move? So these are examples of how people would rethink their products, and then they also rethink their pricing and have different levels for different types of people, so that you know that you're doing this not just for your profits, but you're thinking about what is fair to the consumer.
Right. Right, right. And what role does the product quality play now that consumers are more price sensitive but still demand reliability?
Yeah. Um, People are price sensitive. However, they would not still compromise on quality. Quality is still quality.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that would make people buy something. And so consumers would prefer uh, something that is even more quality, even if they have to pay a little higher. Because remember, when we say we are finding a balance, it does not necessarily mean that we are finding lower prices. It just means that the quality needs to match the price and also the value behind it. And so you would realize that there's a product that is slightly higher than the rest, but people are still buying it because the perceived quality is very high. So the example would be maybe an iPhone where it's slightly higher than the other phones. You would think that maybe now that people are more value driven, they would realize that I can still make a call on another phone, but they will still want to be with the iPhone because of the perceived quality and the actual quality that is there. Because there's a lot of resale value. It does not get broken too quickly, and so on and so forth. So regardless of whatever it is like quality is still the number one thing, and other things will have to balance according to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, right, right. So now let's take it from the angle of an entrepreneur or a local business. How can they balance affordability and profitability, especially in an economy where The changes in exchange rates, inflation is either up or down today, tomorrow. The different change in prices in the markets, the import duties, and all of the how can they, balance affordability and profitability in your opinion? Hello,
Lost you.
hello.
Yeah, I think I lost you there, but I think I
Okay,
got the question.
okay.
Um, no, but I think these local businesses would need to be smarter about the way they're doing things. Because when these businesses are thinking about higher prices for their products, they're usually attributing it to operational costs. Saying that, well, it cost me so to do this product, I cannot sell it product or otherwise. So what the main thing that local businesses have to do is think about how they're managing those operational costs, cutting them down, whether it means sourcing locally for raw materials, whether it means using technology to automate certain things that maybe humans would have done. Not advocating for unemployment, but um, efficiency, being more efficient with the way you produce your stuff. And then when it comes to pricing, I think I already mentioned that's the trend. You need to have tiered pricing for everything that you're doing or most of the things that you're doing so that you're able to reach a wider audience. So you're able to reach the people who are able to afford the premium, people who are able to afford the basic. And I think if you're able to manage those operational costs and price things better,
Mm.
you should be able to grow without trouble.
Okay, so local businesses, in order to balance affordability and profitability, they have to manage operational costs. They have to look for local produce and, in as much as possible, be efficient in the operations, reducing overhead costs as
Yeah,
much as possible. That was
yeah.
excellent. For SMEs, in what way can they be innovative to stay relevant in today's budget conscious economy, or consumers who are now budget conscious? Because they are comparing, like you said, on social media, they'll check, supplier A is this, supplier B is that. So how can, SMEs be innovative in such an economy?
Um, I think what you said also had a bit of an answer because when you said they are checking on social media, it reminded me
Right.
that once they're checking on social media, then that's where you have to be.
Mm.
But you don't have to just be there, but you have to be there as the primary source of the or source of solution that they want. So being on social media is one thing, but making sure that you're marketing yourself properly so that when they are searching, you are the one that is popping up with the best deals ever. That's a way to get ahead. You
Mm.
are another way to think about this, just as I mentioned, is uh, when you're cutting operational costs, is maybe even using the technology a bit more. So what are the big companies doing that we are or not doing that we can do? So maybe digital payments, speaking directly to the consumer, paying attention to what the consumer is saying a bit more by
Right.
listening to their feedback and so on and so forth. So a larger organization will have to spend months and to get a whole research done to find out what consumers are saying based on the product that they shipped out. It's an enormous operation. But for
Mm.
SMEs, you're able to get direct feedback. You're able to pay attention to that feedback. You're always online, so you know the small insights that are needed to be able to cut through the noise. And once you know that they are searching for social media on social media, you are there with your marketing. You are there with your creative marketing, so that
Mm.
you stay ahead of the rest.
Okay, so if I got you right, you are advising that they have a personified, digital platform where, I mean, it shouldn't be just I have a social media, but there has to be a human feel to the engagement and how you
Yeah.
post, and how you interact with your customers or potential customers. Now, how can businesses also use data or customer insights to better understand and respond to the shifting consumer values?
Um, Almost every smart business is using social media analytics to make decisions now. There are surveys that you're doing. People are asking people to fill service, not for fun, but also for them to understand and track exactly what's happening with my product. How are people spending money on things that are in my industry or in my line? What are people feeling about these types of products? What's the feedback? You can even get it. What are my competitors doing and all of that? So these are the kind of data that you should pay attention to if you're an SME. So you have to understand that one, you're picking data from consumers, but you're also picking data from um, your competitors, and you're understanding exactly what these sentiments are. So
Mm.
being a bit more granular is what I would say with the data. So data can be processed in so many ways, but I think that for SMEs, they have to go a bit deeper than the regular person or the regular company or the big company and be more granular to the little things. If it is even noticing that your people are commenting more on your products or even engaging more with your products when you put it online only on Saturdays, then you know that you have a certain data points that you're going to use, that on Saturdays this is what you're going to do, and you're going to be even more engaging and so on and so forth. So paying attention to the little things with data or breaking it down is what I think they should do. I
Right.
don't know if I the
Yes, yes.
question.
So they're breaking out, paying attention to your social media. I think that's for online businesses and some SMEs. They do that so well. So what lessons can established brands also learn from some of these startups or SMEs or online businesses that have built their identity around affordability and value?
I think I was speaking to someone about how they market their products because I felt that I didn't understand what was going on. Or some We were just discussing how big brands seem to behave um, as if they are on top of the consumer, and so they are not with the consumer. But
Right.
then the small brands are making headway because they're able to talk to them as if they are one of them.
Mm,
And so what legacy brands can learn, or big brands can learn, is how to be very agile in the way that they move. And so it's not taking months and years before you make a simple decision about a product, but then also become more authentic in the way they speak.
mm,
There's a way that you sell a certain that people are selling simple products that are moving faster. If you go online, you notice that some of these videos are coming up. They're a bit easier, and now bigger brands are tapping into it. They're realizing that spending a lot more money on a whole production to do one ad just to talk about one product might not be the best way to go about it. You might need to speak to people the way they want to hear. They want to have a very simple mobile video that they can quickly watch and swipe on. So you have to start adapting your conversation to that.
mm,
Um, Fine tuning your offer and becoming more clear in your messaging. So then once you're a big brand, you're tempted to use big words to explain what you're doing, and so that you come off as a very established, behemoth in this thing. But what the smaller brands are doing is that they're speaking very simple English and they're saying direct things. This is my product, this is what it does, come and buy it. If you buy it, this is what it will do for you, and it will do, or this is what it will do for your community. And I think they are avoiding all the English, and they are doing simple work and receiving simple or better returns. So those are some of my lessons I can share with the bigger brands.
right. Kwabena, you've spoken extensively on pricing strategy and social media strategy as well. Would like to dive deeper into branding, communication, and customer relationships. Now, if you're listening to us, you're still here on Z101.9 FM. This is the Business Breakfast on Z. We have our second guest online as well, Mr. Ebo Richardson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Amadedi, and to your honored guest and all the listeners as well.
Thank you so.
Apologies for joining a little bit late. I'm actually in transit, so do pardon me.
That's okay. We're actually honored to have you here. For Mr. Ebo Richardson, I call him the legend when it comes to brand strategy. So thank you so much for honoring our invitation. So, Mr.
Yep.
Ebo, oh sorry, Mr. Richardson, would like to hear from you your opinion. What does it mean to say that we are in a new era of value conscious consumers?
Well, okay. So, once again, apologies. I'm joining a little bit late, but I'm sure my good friend has already articulated very powerfully what the essence of valued focus customer is in today's day and age.
Yes.
Essentially, we're now living in a world where people feel more empowered. There's a lot more exposure than there was before, because of the internet and technology, and frankly speaking, migration, immigration, global travels. The world is a smaller place, as a result of which people have access to, things they've never had access to before.
Mm.
Even via the internet, even via, the social media and all the tools that we have, people have access to vast amounts of information. That
Mm.
brings about a sense of empowerment. And that empowerment means that people then feel that they are able to demand. They feel that they're able to, have access to the things that they want to have access to.
Mm.
That gives them a sense of choice. And that sense of choice then comes in them seeking out the various elements of value that they want. Now, value means different things to different people. Let's not
Mm.
conflate that. It's
Mm.
not, when we say value, it doesn't mean the same thing for
The same
everybody.
thing. Yes.
Somebody views value in quality and they're prepared to pay for that quality. Somebody sees value more in maybe pricing, and therefore they feel like to get value they need to have better pricing. Value is from the eye of the beholder, if I can use that expression,
Right.
right? And the more people get exposed, and the more they feel like they are empowered, the more they feel able to demand the sort of value that they want. That
Mm.
is the essence of a customer feeling empowered to push for value. In our part of the world, we tend to be more price sensitive,
Mm.
as a result of which we then essentially are pushing for things that we feel should be cheaper. And that, to many of us, is value. But at the end of the day, we are still able to push for that value because there's competition, because we have access to vast amounts of information,
Mm.
because we are more exposed, because we have tools and technology, and that gives us a sense of empowerment
Mm.
to demand that which we seek.
Right, right. So thank you so much, Mr. Richard. You talked about exposure, you talked about the sense of empowerment and how value everyone and how they look at value. So somebody's value may be quality, someone else's may be price. And I think that this will also help businesses to, in terms of putting their strategy together, know what value they want to give and then see how they can target those consumers who are looking for such value. And then also that sense of empowerment has also given consumers that like they demand what they want. So you have to give them what they want so that you can also increase in the market share. But to continue on that, how important is brand transparency and authenticity to value conscious consumers today?
I think it's absolutely critical, right? Because at the
Mm.
end of the day, as I alluded to earlier on, we're seeing a world, which because of globalization and technology and the internet, we're seeing a world that is getting smaller
Right.
and getting smaller from the perspective that there are more options. You can literally reach everywhere in the world.
Mm.
You're sitting in Ghana, you can actually provide services to people in the UK, in the US, and elsewhere. Same, you're sitting in the US, you can provide services to people sitting in Singapore. So the world is a smaller place. And because people are becoming increasingly more exposed and increasingly more entitled or empowered,
Mm.
your ability to distinguish, to make very clear what it is that you offer and why that thing that you offer is relevant and useful and valuable, frankly speaking, to the consumer that you are looking for that person to buy, to spend money to buy your services. That clarity is absolutely important because otherwise then you're just like one of many.
Mm.
There's no authentication, there's no differentiation. You're just one of many, and if you're one of many, then the chances that people will part with their hard-earned cash to procure, to acquire whatever it is you're selling is
Mm.
reduced. Because if you're, for instance, a watch seller at a particular base, from the 7 time or whatever in the evenings, and people perceive all the watches to be the same. It's like, oh, there's no difference. There's nothing that stands out about anyone.
Mm.
Then I can go to any of them. there's no reason I should come to you because you don't stand out. There's nothing authentic or different about what you're offering. So having that clarity around a brand, having clarity of what you stand for. So if you look at some of the more powerful brands in the world, they clearly identify themselves as something. There's something they clearly position themselves at. For instance, you take Mercedes-Benz, that's kind of engineering quality. It's part of the brand. It's what sells the brand. If you take Porsche or Ferrari, there's this kind of luxury thing going on. If you take
Mm.
Apple, it's design and UI. All of those brands stand out for something that consumers want, and they target the part or the segments of markets where those consumers want that particular thing that they're offering, and they spend a lot of money.
Mm.
In the case of the larger organizations across the world, billions of dollars to make sure that their brand positioning is very, very clear. So you can't rubbish it, you can't belittle it because it is absolutely crucial to being able to push product related value to particular segments of the consumer market.
Right, right. So would you say that this is like having a niche, or it goes beyond having a niche?
Well, you can't say that Apple has a niche or Samsung has a niche. I mean, these
Yeah.
are such powerful brands and they command such huge demographics in terms of their customers. So you can't really call it a niche. But
Yeah.
in a way, that is what you're alluding to. In a way, you're pointing to that. You're saying that there is something that you have to offer
Mm-hmm.
that some particular group of customers are interested in. They want that. That's what they need. The people who buy Apple for specific reasons. And because of that, it's very difficult for them to leave the Apple and go and buy Huawei because the
Right.
Apple, it connects with them. It gives them that specific thing that they're looking for. So therefore, Apple will be very keen to make sure that the whole world understands that we are the champions of doing this. Yeah.
Mm.
Now, you could call it a niche when it's a relatively small entity. You talk about maybe some small company in Ghana that is satisfying some particular, let's say a fintech, for instance, that is
Mm.
satisfying some particular segment of that whole fintech spectrum. Maybe they are allowing people to be able to borrow working capital, and they are one of two people who do that, or two fintechs who do that, and they do that for particular SMEs or micro SMEs. That's a niche. But if this same fintech should grow, yeah, and they become large global entity. They have branches everywhere, and they have a customer base of 500 million. It's difficult to say it's a niche, but in a way, still it is because they are targeting that particular group of SMEs to deliver a specific set of value, a specific benefit to them.
Mm. Right. Okay. Now, Kwabena, let me come to you. So like the Unilever case study that I mentioned, they even came up with a tagline or a communique that little goes a long way in order to help their customers know that there's been a change. We have sachets, we have packages that you can afford. Now, what are consumers more influenced by marketing messages or by peer reviews and social proof when making buying decisions?
Well, that's an interesting question. Um, so consumers are very different, first of all. So there are people who are very interested in the things that you would see on a billboard, or they find it very fancy.
Mm.
What I always say is that these marketing messages are there to get your attention, and that they will do their job to do that. They will grab your attention. They might not always nudge you to make a purchase.
Mm.
Some might, but not all of them might. All of them will.
Mm.
So social proof becomes very key when it comes to nudging you to make a decision
Mm.
as to whether you want to, purchase or not. I find that I manage a small page called Gomwa Wonderland, where
Mm.
we we don't put a lot of marketing messages out there, but we realize that putting people's opinions of the place, people's experiences of the place, their reviews, it goes a longer way to getting people to trust the brand and then deciding to come there. Because once we put out the marketing message, they would know about us and they will say that, oh, this is a place that is out there and they offer this and they offer that. And that's
Mm.
Or when they see someone show a video that they were there and they had this much fun with their family and this was the result, they are more interested in doing the same thing. So I would say that people are moved more when it comes to decision making by the peer reviews. But of course, those marketing messages are also so very important for attention. So yeah.
Yeah. So how can businesses effectively communicate value beyond just pricing?
Come again, beyond. I think I lost you there.
Beyond just pricing or low pricing, how can businesses communicate effective? How can they communicate value effectively?
Yeah, I think yeah, like my senior said, value is very different for different people.
Right.
Um, so price might be value for somebody because they are actually they are on their last density, so that's what's important to them. But quality, the quality of the product is also something that you have to communicate. It can be even the customer service that you provide, right?
Mm.
And what we are seeing nowadays is the purpose of or the reason why you are doing it, your thing. So you realize that lots of young or small companies, founder-led, small companies are starting to do a lot of, or founders are even becoming more creators or content creators because they are telling their story as to why they are doing whatever they are doing or why they're selling their products. Because they understand that the value nowadays is moving to the why. People want to know why you even started something as simple as a decor company. Why are you deciding that this is the right time to start a decor company? And why is it that you think that your decor is better than others? Or why do you think that people purchase your stuff? And so people, brands are now playing into that value of why. And so that value of why is a bit more emotional. It appeals to your senses. It does not even necessarily have to tell you or give you value personally, but it can also give value to the environment or somebody else. So, for example, when Awake decided to come and sell water in the markets where there was water everywhere, they decided that they would make it about other people and donate money from their proceeds to the thoracic center. Also, you saw other brands also jumping on such things, and we are realizing with time that value has become more emotional. So,
Yeah.
aside the quality, because now that the world is so open, as my senior said, it's now a village, people can compare qualities easily.
Yeah.
And most of the time, most often than not, the qualities are the same
Mm.
or very similar. So then you can start to differentiate yourself with your service and then maybe the purpose that you are doing, you're rolling out your product or brand.
Right, right. Mr. Richardson, I see that you're nodding your head. Is there any other opinion or addition to what Kwabena has shared?
I think Sir Kwabena has answered the question fantastically. I don't have I don't have much to add except to say that today in today's world, trying to deliver effective marketing is about very powerful, effective storytelling. Okay,
Mm.
and doing that, you must mix the options, the channels. You must mix them.
Mm.
Just putting out messages about your brand and your product is not sufficient because the dynamics of the world today are far more complex than they've been before. That's why, as Mr. Kwabena said, that's why you have brands who are playing a multiple game. They are sort of using value from an emotive perspective, as he said. They are also trying to make sure that there's clarity, absolute clarity on what they stand for, their own, because of sort of I don't want to use the word human maturity, but as in the trajectory curve that we are on as humanity and global homogeneity and all of that.
Mm.
Because of that, certain things become relevant. People now care about your carbon footprint. They now care about how much pollution that you are causing in parts of the country, and all of that has brought a certain expectation. So just saying, I am this car company and I produce cars is not enough.
Mm.
You must first of all say, what value do you offer? What benefit do you bring beyond all the other car companies? And then how are you contributing to the world as a whole, to communities, etc.? Those messages are very important. And then there's the dimension of what you both yourself and Sir Kwabena mentioned around kind of the social capital. That's
Right.
also super, super important because people tend to um, follow the directions of those they trust. Okay.
Yeah.
And in as much as the world is getting smaller, in as much as we're seeing globalization and all manner of other things, we are also starting to see entrenched divisions, right? Where conservatives versus liberals, we're starting to see, and when those things come, even from religious perspective, distrust heightens. So, for instance, I may be very good at something. I may be very good at what I do, or I may be very good at, selling some particular product. But if a potential buyer, prospective buyer, sees me as maybe the opposite to what he likes, if
Mm.
maybe he's a liberal and I'm a conservative, the mere fact that I'm a conservative can prevent them from buying from me because the blinders come up, the words come up the minute they get the sense that I am something other than what they'd like.
Mm.
So the whole social capital becomes also something that is critically important in terms of how you manage it. That's why people use influencers. That's why people use brand ambassadors. But when they do, they try to make sure that there is some synergies between their brand, their product, and that ambassador or influencer. Because if there's a conflict, it can actually hurt them more than helping them. So these are all some of the things that are important in bringing a very powerful, marketing or branding conversation into the fray to make sure that organizations can maximize whatever they invest in branding and in marketing to get the outcomes that they want from a product sales and financial performance perspective.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Richardson. So, Sir Kwabena, like Mr. Richardson will say, um,
Yes,
what?
you have to accord the man. You have to accord the man his.
Yes.
I've been knighted. I can see on this call.
So, with your experience with, Gomoa or even Wawulu, as your personal brand, what role does customer experience and after sales service play in, retaining cost conscious buyers or spenders? Let me say that.
um, I think that's where you're able to differentiate yourself, like we said, because people are cost conscious. They come in, they say, okay, I want to come and stay over. Okay, can you organize this for me?
Yeah.
Um, and then they see the prices, they like it or they don't like it. I think the only chance you've set your price there already. You don't really do much to your price. The only time you get to do much is to how you deliver that same service. And so when they're complaining about the price, you can calm them down by giving them the best service that they've ever experienced. So when we started this, we said we started this with consumer experience, especially Goma Wonderland as a brand. We started with the consumer experience. We started with a very basic insight because we acted like a small business. It was a simple insight online on Twitter. I think it was that was saying, somebody was saying they wanted to go to a place where they can just chill by the
Mm.
lake, have some campfire, just stay with some friends. And based on that insight, we developed a product. And when we delivered the product, we knew that our pricing and our product quality was not at the highest level. So we knew that we were going to be dealing with people who are thinking about more value, cost conscious. So what we had to differentiate ourselves with was the service or the delivery of that service. And so that particular weekend was very special to us. We brought everybody we could bring in. It was all smiles. It was all helping. Every guests does do not have to lift a finger, and so on and so forth. And based on that, we had so many good reviews, and from those reviews, those same peer reviews, like we mentioned, as what is going to convince someone else to also come
Mm.
on board. So I think that when people are more conscious of prices and all of that, being able to go over and beyond with your customer service is actually going to really set you up and open the doors up to even more business. And then I think it's good we're talking about this considering we're in customer service week anyway. So I think that would be my answer. Yeah.
Right, excellently said. Thank you so much. So we also want to dive into the area of technology, innovation, and sustainability. But before we do so, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, and we are having a discussion on how businesses adapt to the new era of value-conscious consumer. And we have Kwabena Oppon-Kusi and Ebo Richardson here on on live on Z, sharing their insights or their experience with us, and we are having a whole lot from the wealth of knowledge that they have in store. So, back to you, Mr. Richardson. How is technology helping businesses lower costs while still offering quality products or service?
Okay, so the whole premise of technology is that it helps us to bring about improvement, right?
Right.
Technology enables us to be able to do things quicker. The technology enables us to be able to do things more efficiently. Technology enables us to do things at scale that perhaps we'd struggle to achieve otherwise. And technology enables us to reach further than we can reach without
Mm.
technologies. So, taken together, you have a situation where technology ultimately brings about better outcomes, better performance. If you can scale, it means you can do more. So, for instance, you can have a traditional bakery, right? You know,
Right.
your great grandmother's bakery that has been handed down through the family. And that bakery has a fixed, oven that does the baking, and there's a fixed number of bread that you can put in there or dough that you can put in there
Mm.
to have the bread to bake a certain amount of bread within a particular period of time.
Mm.
Contrast that with maybe a Chinese funded large factory where you can have thousands and thousands of bread being baked through this factory within an hour.
Mm.
There is no comparison. Once technology comes in, you can scale at a rate that sometimes it's quite scary at the rate at which you can scale. Then you can reach further than you can. So technology brings an ability to not only enhance the product that you're offering in various different ways or dimensions,
Mm.
but also efficiencies in terms of reach, performance, in terms of cost. So without that, you are competing. If you don't have the technology, if you don't use technology, you are competing with competitors who have it, who can scale, who can bring about, aggressive cost efficiency. They can do the same thing you are doing at 30% of the price. At that point, you cease to become competitive. So
Mm.
the simple fact of the matter is bringing technology into the fray is inevitable if you want to continue to be around for a long time and do business successfully, because ultimately you cannot compete if you don't have technology with those people or those organizations that do use it in the most effective ways. It's as simple as that. The other dimension that technology helps with, apart from reach, scale, and so on and so forth, I heard Sir Kwabena speak about it earlier on, just as I joined,
Mm.
is data analytics, information, those sort of things. What they do is they enable you to amass a wealth of information that tells you about the market
Mm.
that you're operating in. Tells you about what people like, what they don't like, tells you about what products sell faster than which other products, tells you about the kind of practices and behaviors that those your customers or users or the market players, the kind of behaviors that they exhibit. You know all of that. And knowing that enables you to make more informed, more effective business decisions. If a particular product is failing, you may decide to do something about it. You may decide that it's not worth continuing to produce that product, or that you're going to tweak it in a particular way, or you might find that it sells better in a particular segment or a particular geographical location, in which case you focus that product in that geographical location. So ultimately, all of that information gives you the ability to make better business decisions. And all of that is enabled by technology. So the simple fact of the matter is we are living in a world today that without technology, I don't see how organizations can be effective, can be successful, and can be around for a long time to come.
Great, great. So you talked about the I mean the the technology can help you to know who your customers are, what they're looking for, even as much as the geographical reach that your products is getting to, or where your service is getting to. So Kwabena, let me come to you. So you think that e-commerce platforms and digital tools help businesses to reach more value-driven customers from the angle of, you know, who our customers are, what they're looking for, which area they are in. Do you think e-commerce platform is also able to help with that?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can
So,
hear you.
yeah, for sure. These online platforms, I'm thinking about these e-commerce platforms. I'm thinking about the Jumias and Co.
Right.
Yeah, they do that because what they allow you to do is to be able to do the one thing that value-driven consumers are looking for, which is to compare.
Mm.
They want to have the best value. So when you have everything on an e-commerce platform listed, they go to their Amazon, they check the category they want. They have so many options. They're able to compare better, and it allows. So if you're a product or if you're a brand and you put yourself there, you are giving yourself a competitive advantage. Then you're able to show that this is my product sitting next to another person, but this is what mine would give you. This is how much mine would cost, and this is what mine looks like. And it's starting right there. The person doesn't have to go too far, and people like that, and they realize that that is what has also e-commerce platforms are also just a response to the times and response to people becoming more value conscious. So yeah, I agree with that. I think these platforms are exactly they bring products together at the same place and they allow value driven customers to make the right decision. So yeah.
Okay. So, also then, in your opinion, how does sustainability and ethical business practice influence purchasing choices among, you know, the modern consumers?
Yeah, modern consumers are very conscious, social conscious, and it's going to get even more and more social conscious.
Mm.
When 2 years ago when millennials were on top, we made it very clear that they were more social conscious than the previous generation.
Mm.
The Gen Zs are here and they're even more conscious than that. The Gen Zs are thinking about their health more. They are thinking about environment more. They've realized that if they don't make a change, it's about to get really bad.
Mm.
And so when you are selling a product, you would realize that almost every product is thinking about how they can sell something that is more sustainable, or even send a message that is conscious. And if you're a big brand, definitely you have that as part of your major departments now, hiring C-suite executives just to talk about the sustainability part of the business. And so these are the things that are becoming more and more important to people.
Mm.
Also because of the way the world is going and the kind of pollution that is going on in the world, the kind of threats, the poverty, the war, and all those things that are going on. A response to that, whatever we're doing is also a response to what the world is. And the response is that if I'm about to buy your product, I have to make sure that you care about the world that we are living in and you're not just taking advantage of it and trying to make a profit, right? Everybody knows that your business is trying to make a profit, but hey, how about the guy at the bottom line? Are you trying to help them as well? And if you're able to convince me that you care about the people that you're selling to or the area that you're producing your product in and so on, I become more attracted to your brand and I will be more interested in producing it because I don't feel like I'm just drinking your drink.
Mm.
I feel like I'm also helping or doing my little to help the environment by purchasing your product. And that's what people really want to get at. They want to also become valuable by consuming your value. Yeah.
Right. They want to become valuable by consuming your value. Thank you so much. And that was awesome. Mr. Richardson, can you also share your opinion on this? How sustainability and ethical business practice influence purchasing choices?
I think Sekwabna is absolutely right. I think we are beginning to see um, uh, humanity, consumers now starting to take more and more of an interest
Mm.
in ethics, in sustainability, and in sort of community contributions and so on and so forth. The interesting thing, and I've been around a lot longer than perhaps the two of you, as you can see from my plenty gray hair. The interesting thing The interesting thing is that these conversations didn't start today.
Mm,
The whole idea of sustainability and ethics and all these things, they are not new. They've been around for a long time. But they didn't get the kind of support and the kind of take up that they are getting now.
mm,
Okay. And I believe it's because the message is starting to be understood in a way that enables personalization. You see, human beings, regardless of whether we will admit it or not, are inherently self centered. Okay. Our survival instinct is the strongest instinct in human existence. First and foremost, we want to survive, we want to live, and then everything else is added onto that.
mm,
Okay? And in the past, where maybe the message wasn't landing, is that the message was very abstract and generic. It was, global warming and temperatures are increasing and blah, 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 and it didn't fit the personalized narrative, because the personalized narrative was more about, how do I get petrol in my car, to be able to go where I'm going? How do I get this other product to satisfy this need, and so on and so forth.
right.
And then, as these messages have sustained, we are now starting to understand the message within a personalized context. And that's when everybody changes.
Mm,
That's when everything changes. Because then we realize that actually, if this global warming or climate change or whatever they will call it next continues, or if the issue with car fumes and oil and lead and all these things continue, or if the people who are doing galamsey in Ghana's forests continue and the waters are damaged and whatever, then it starts to affect me,
mm,
right? I get poisoned, I get ill, my child may pass on, whatever. And once that message becomes personalized, once we feel like, this thing is going to affect us, then we start to care. So Kwabena used the excellent example of, there's Gen Zs and younger people being interested in health and,
mm,
gym and walks and whatever.
yeah.
Is because the message has landed that that is how they will have better quality of life.
Mm,
That is how they will, be around for a lot longer. And I think it's a revelation that those messages are now landing in a way that they can be personalized, because then certain things can be done about them. But the net result from a business perspective, that is that, as Sir Krapner said, is that now people care. Now these things are relevant.
mm,
Now some of the buying decisions that they make are influenced by some of these things. Now,
mm,
of course, in our part of the world, it's not as acute, it's not as sharp as it is in other parts of the world, but it is coming. Because of globalization, because of global homogeneity, because of exposure, it is coming. And I think that a lot more organizations in our part of the world also have to start paying attention and starting now to position the levers that will enable them to capitalize on some of these things as they continue to develop.
right, right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sir Kwabena. Thank you so much, Mr. Richardson. Now, let's look at how to compare the local or the mindset when it comes to local and global perspective. I think that in terms of the comparison as well, or the value that our consumers are looking for, in some way or another, they're also comparing the global value against the local value. So, Kwabena, let me come to you. How do consumer expectations in Ghana compare with global trends in value-driven consumption?
Um, I would like to think that because of how exposed we have become,
Mm,
it's very similar nowadays. We are almost, and we know how Ghanaians are very, very much a consuming market, and we already are known for having such foreign tastes when it comes to consumption. And so it's very similar. We're also looking for the best quality, a brand that is transparent. But just as Mr. Richardson said, it's less acute when it comes to, or compared to the global side, and compared to the local side. We are also very much still a very poor, poor nation. And so we are thinking about how affordable these products are for us. So price becomes very valuable to us. And then
mm,
also how practical it is to use. So if it is not something that would fit our, for example, climate, then it's not, people are not paying as much attention. It used to be that back then you would see people trying to sell winter jackets in Ghana, but nowadays people are not buying into that idea. People want to buy clothes that are fitting. They are clothes that are airy enough because they've come to accept that we are living in a tropical country. So do not come and sell certain things to me. It's getting people are moving even more farther and farther away from suits,
Mm.
accepting fabrics and clothes, for example. And so we pay attention to the things that the global people pay attention to as well, global markets pay attention to as well.
Mm.
However, we are closer to the affordability side of things, where we want things to be affordable and we want things to make sense to us in terms of where we are, our local context, and how practical it is. So I think those are the differences I can tell between the local and the global.
Right, right. I'll come back to you, Sir Kwabena. But Mr. Richardson, you've had various experience. If you've experienced different sectors, you've worked at different organizations, and currently within the financial sector. So, in your opinion, what sectors or industries have adapted most effectively in this new wave of consumer behavior?
That was a very nice way of telling me I'm an Oluman.
No.
Um, okay, so I don't think you can section out any particular sector and
Mm,
then say that behaviors are necessarily kind of shifting. And the reason I say that is simple is because it's the same people that are consuming across all sectors. If somebody is coming to a bank to engage with financial services or financial solutions, it's that same person that is going to chop wache at Antimony. Is that same person that is going to buy cloth at GTP, right?
mm,
So it's a complex dynamic, and I agree with what Sakwabna just said. I think ultimately it comes down to um, transgenerational tastes. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to, because
mm,
what will happen is, as time progresses and, we get more exposed and we see more of the world and, other people come here and all those other things, the generations that are to come will have a broader set of tastes, and those tastes will determine how they consume. Okay, let me give you an example.
mm,
20 years ago, we didn't have anything like KFC and Burger King here in Ghana. You know, we were content with our gari and ampesi and fufu and banku and things. Now we have Burger King, and I have young son, and he swears by Burger King. He wants to go and grab a junior whopper or whatever it is, and that is a new dimension to our consumption patterns as a market, as people. But does that mean that we stop chopping banku? No, we still, so maybe, the dinosaurs like me may not go and do the Burger King. We'll still stick with our fufu and banku. But, um, you know, en masse, if you look at the market as a whole, there are people who are doing both Burger King and banku or fufu. And that mix is an interesting mix because it shows that there's still a tendency to want to stick to some of our ways, our traditional ways, what made us or identified us, but whilst at the same time being open to new ways and new consumptions and new tastes. And that is a very interesting dynamic that it'll be interesting to see how that develops over time and how that shapes our consumption patterns and our willingness, frankly speaking, to
mm,
part with hard and cash. Earlier on we were speaking about price sensitivity, right? And we were talking about, the fact that some of us, a part of the world, we're very price sensitive. But even price sensitivity tends to be a function of two things. First of all, it's a function of how much we think we have, our own purchasing power. And then secondly, is a function of our perception of the value of that thing that we're going to buy.
mm,
Because somebody will go and haggle over a cloth or some food, some fruit or some snails or whatever. They'll haggle over it. But when they go and buy club beer, they won't say reduce the club beer because the perception of the club beer is that price is the right price. So there's all of these dynamics that will shape our consumption patterns over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years. And it'll be interesting to see. I think the organizations that are able to to create a very clear outlay of
Mm.
how these things will develop over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years, stand to make significant value, as opposed to the organizations that don't. Now is not a time to guess. Now is the time to use all the tools, information, data, etc., that is available to us, to make very informed, predictive analysis that will help us thrive as businesses. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. But before we continue, there are a few questions here. So you're still here on Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. This morning, we're having a conversation on how businesses can adapt to the new era of value-conscious consumer. So we have a question here from Solomon in Adenta, who deals in clothing. He says that he's noticed a shift. He noticed a shift in consumer demands, and which is something that is most challenging for him. What, in your opinion, or what is your advice to him in noticing these shifts? Let me take it again. He says that he's experienced a shift in customer behavior, and he has challenges in identifying what value consumers need and at what time. So if you can advise him on what to do. Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
Would you?
So
Okay.
Kwabena, would you like to
Maybe.
say that?
Yeah. I think it's pretty simple, and Solomon has to think of himself, or think just as he is as a small business, and be very direct with these consumers and find out exactly what it is they're doing. So we like to put these big concepts out there, the consumer shifts and demand and everything.
Mm.
The big this, and they are spending lots of money to go to the field and get the big numbers. But for a small business, you have a consumer pool, a customer pool of people who have been maybe coming to you or coming to you repeatedly or once in a while. Make sure you're engaged with them, whether it's through a simple small survey or you're asking them direct questions or you're using your social channel or platform to ask them simple questions and then get these insights. And so I like to think that when you're a small business, be personalized. People also do not like to be, you might not get all the data you want online, or you might not get all the data somewhere, but you can simply ask people, listen, when we back then when you go and buy something somewhere for a while, if you stop going there, I'll keep my barber shop as an example. And if I don't go there for a month or two, the first thing the guy asks me is that, where have you been? Is there
Mm.
something that we didn't do right, or you stopped coming here? And just based on that conversation, they can have insights as to what is wrong. And I have to give them that. I like coming here, but there's too much traffic on your road. So when I come here, I struggle. Based on that insight, you can make your decisions. So
Mm.
I want to be very, very simple in his approach in trying to get consumer data that he can use to innovate when it comes to his business.
Right, right. And would you also say that since he operates a clothing line, would you also say that the shifts in demand may also be based on the time? Because maybe during December, people are looking for party clothes, in between, they're looking for something for work or for church. So would you also say that he also has to identify the different times
Yeah.
and the kind of demands that come in order to, identify what the customer needs at that particular time?
Yeah, I think that comes down to what Mr. Richardson said about data, paying attention to the data.
Exactly.
Especially if you've been doing this for a while, so you know that the seasons that you are in, it's about to be Christmas. You know that you're not going to sell certain types of clothes, but you know you're going to sell the wedding. If the weddings are going to happen in December, and between 18th to 27th, you have almost all the weddings happening in Accra. So if you're somebody who's paying attention to them, you know that all your wedding kaftans should be ready about that time. But after that, you might have a dip because people are not going anywhere
Yeah.
or so forth. So those are something you should also pay attention to.
Right. We have another question from Mr. Anan. He says that as a business owner, from product design team to the customer service department, how can I get them to align and understand the value, the modern definition of value?
I
Mr.
guess since
Richardson.
Sir Kwabena took the first one, perhaps
Mr. Richardson,
I
yes.
can take this one.
Yes.
So I think it's this one in my humble opinion comes down to leadership, right?
Mm,
That's what I think because
mm,
ultimately, as a business owner or a CEO or a senior business leader somewhere, ultimately it is incumbent on us to make sure that the people who work with us
mm,
understand first of all why we're there, what it is that we're trying to produce, and how that benefits the consumers and the society at large, but also possessing the tools, the knowledge, the skills to be able to effectively discharge their duties in relation to that ultimate goal that we have. So
right.
if you have, product design teams, you have sales people, you have production floor people, there is a requirement on the leadership to be able to then produce or give them the right tools, send them to training, expose them more. Conversations like this, there's no reason why only the business leader or the CEO or whatever should be listening to. It should be something that is available to everybody. And for instance, what I do is if I come across anything, whether it's an article, whether it's a video, audio, anything that I believe speaks to some important messages that will help my team, my organization be more effective, I share. I
Mm,
immediately share. I'll share on WhatsApp platforms. I'll share in any way that I can because, to paraphrase Richard Branson, if you can make the whole more effective, if you can get everybody to operate at a higher level,
mm.
the organization will be better for it. And, you are more likely to succeed in whatever market you play. So that would be my suggestion.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Kwaba, do you have anything else to add? Yeah.
So I'll let that be the last word on
Yeah.
that.
Okay. All right. So, right now we just want to, grab from you your last comments when it comes to business adapting to the new era of value conscious consumer. So, what do you think, or what does the future of consumer behavior look like? Will the focus will the focus on value stay, or in your opinion, you think it will evolve into something new? So, Kwabena, if you can start with that.
Yeah, for sure it's going to stay. People will definitely um, always place value, will find their value that they're looking for in their products, right?
Mm,
But I know that as we're going further down the line, we will become even more conscious of things like sustainability, and then the why behind your brand, and then also they will prefer, brands to be talking to them in a very personalized way. And so it's up to the brands in Ghana to pay attention to these things. Um, I think some of these sectors have tried. Look at some of these FMCGs and telecoms. You can tell that they are always trying to be or sound a bit more purpose driven, a bit more sustainable, and they've been doing it for a while now. And so what they can do is to double down on it, and other industries can also jump on it. Um, for example, I think when we were speaking earlier, I heard Mr. Richardson mention the Galamsey problem, which has
mm-hmm.
been there for a while, but has heightened in conversation for the past year or two. But you've not seen, for example, any brand go to the front and center and innovate within that problem and say that this is my brand, this is what I stand against, and this is what I would to help join that conversation or join that fight. And you would watch and notice that whoever does that first or pays attention to that is going to make a big impact, make a big splash on that. Of
Mm,
course, there are other reasons why they probably have not jumped on it, but bravest will win. And so, if you're brave about sustainability, if you're brave about purpose and leaving lasting legacies, um, you would always have value to give to people, and you would definitely be on top of people's minds. So, yeah, those are my last words.
wow, wow. Value is here to stay, and bravest will win. What about you, Mr. Richardson? What's your last word in terms of the future of consumer behavior?
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Kwabena is right. For me, you see, you have to start from the premise that value means different things to different people. And because it means different things to different people, and because of the nature of human beings, we will always be looking for value. We will always be looking for, some sort of benefit. And it applies to us as human beings in all walks of life. When you go to some place and you meet a nice lady or a nice guy,
Mm.
if you are interested in that person, it's because you perceive that there's some value that that person can bring to your life. So value will always be there. Now,
Mm.
is there a possibility that value will, metamorphosize? Yes, of course. We can't predict it, into the distant future. It's difficult to do so. But, the exigencies of tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years from now, may cause us to focus on some other aspects of value, but it will still be value nonetheless. And it's important that all organizations bear that in mind, that people are always looking to buy. They're only going to part with their hard-earned cash if they perceive that what you are offering is meaningful, is beneficial, and is valuable to them in one shape or another.
Mm.
To sign off, I'd like to drop three words that I think are important to organizations as we move into the future. The first is relevance.
Mm.
And relevance is key because you see, as an organization, if you lose your relevance, if nobody is interested in you anymore or what you have to offer, you are dead. So and relevance changes with tastes and global and societal dynamics, right?
Mm.
So you must continually try to understand the market space within which you operate and ascertain what is relevant. So that's number one. Number two is agility.
Mm.
Agility is important because the world is becoming more and more dynamic. The pace of change, as Justin Trudeau once said at the UN, is becoming faster and faster and faster. So therefore, you need to have organizational structures that enable quicker. The gentleman, I think it was Solomon, who asked the question about,
Yeah, the change, the shifts in
consumer change,
consumer. Yeah.
taste shift, and all that. Yeah, the coming events cast their shadows. None of that would have happened without some kind of, they didn't just change overnight. It took a while.
Mm.
And it's important to be observing these things and making certain shifts. But you can only do that if you're agile. And
Mm.
then the last one I wanted to leave with our listeners is the word pivot. Yeah.
Okay.
Pivot because sometimes you'll be required to. Yeah. The fact that you are selling bread today, or you are selling cakes, or you are selling, uh, um, um, sweets or hand sanitizer, does not necessarily mean that that is the only thing you should sell forever. Because that's what you think Because what happens is that if there are dynamics that changes the interest in bread or changes the interest in hand sanitizer or changes the interest in sweets. So for instance, sweets, maybe government announces that sweets are unhealthy for children and therefore there's going to be a general reduction in sweets. It will affect your business straight away, right? If you have a shop by some roadside and the government decides to go and rebuild that road and they are clearing all the sides of the road, you've lost your business. The ability to pivot is the ability to say, okay, what do I do? What skills, what capabilities, what knowledge do I have that will allow me to be able to shift, to do something else other than what I'm doing and still create value and still make money?
Mm.
That, in my view, is going to become more and more important as we move into a very uncertain, a very ambiguous, a very volatile future. So those are the few things that I would like to leave to with our audience, and hopefully with those wonderful insights from Sir Kwabena and the 2 cents that I have added, they have some useful insights that they can apply to wherever they find themselves. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Richardson. Um, you talked about, I mean, one has to be relevant in terms of, business operation has to be relevant. One has to be agile and one has to pivot. Thank you so much, Mr. Richardson. And thank you, both Sir Kwabena and Mr. Richardson, for sharing with us from your wealth of knowledge. It's been so insightful. And if a business owner or an entrepreneur or anyone looking to embark on a business project is listening to us today, I think that as part of their strategies, they're going to be value oriented and think about the customer and what they are looking for. So thank you so much for joining us this morning on Business Breakfast on Z101.9.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So